What will happen is the Internships 101 will be a presentation by Ms. Karen Harris. She'll share her presentation, and then at the end, we'll have the opportunity for a short question and answer session. Um, Please type your questions in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. Thank you for being here, and let me introduce your presenter, Ms. Karen Harris. Karen Drysdale Harris has been engaged with Rhode Island School of Design since the age of 15 when she attended the pre-college program. She went on to graduate from RISD in 1986, majoring in illustration. Karen's career has taken her across continents, starting with teaching in the Bristol City Museum in England and exhibiting her work thereafter. Upon returning to the USA, Karen's diverse professional journey has included roles as a colorist in the automotive industry, a graphic designer, an illustrator for various magazines and newspapers, and a colorist and yarn specialist for textiles and contract fabrics, as well as jewelry designer business owner. She has also held an executive position at a commercial printing company. Karen's artistic talents have been showcased throughout numerous residencies and exhibitions across New England. She was recently featured in the RISD Black Biennial, highlighting her contributions to the arts community. Currently, Karen serves on the board of the Steel Yard and the Providence Art in the City Life Commission. At RISD, Karen is deeply involved in the community engagement efforts. She is a member of the Community Engagement Task Force, serves as a Project Thrive mentor, and acts as an advisor to the Black Arts and Design Student Group. For over 2 decades, Karen has been an integral part of the RISD Career Center, where she currently holds the positions of Internship Manager and Senior Career Advisor. Karen is also the parent of 2 RISD graduates. So please help me welcome Ms. Karen Harris.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I wish I could see your faces. I see your names popping up on the screen, which is really great. It's wonderful to talk to parents, and I just like to say I kind of know exactly how you feel, if you're thinking about your sons or daughters or your children, where they are in their career and what they're studying and how they can actually access internships or actually practice what they're learning. So today's presentation, I like to think about how I'm going to present this to you, because sometimes it can be a lot to say a lot of things, but I want to try and break it down into as small pieces as I can, kind of going out and explaining it, but then bringing it back into something that you can actually digest. So the first part that I'd like to talk about is going to be like an overview about the Career Center and how we stay engaged with students. And then we're going to talk about when to look for an internship, what's required, what are some of the things that I see with international students, especially. And then the second part would be where to find an internship, what kind of companies have hired in the past, and what that looks like, what are job boards. And then the third piece would be, I'd love to hear your questions towards the end, but I'd like to also stress on the value of an internship and how the support from our office that we give to students so they can find engaging experiences. So next slide. So just an overview about the Career Center. So in the RISD Career Center, we do one-on-one individual appointments with students. That is such key. We also do walk-in appointments. So if students don't have time in their schedule, they can walk in for a 15-minute appointment. And that's daily during the week. Okay. We usually have about 30 plus programs that are, some of them are remote and some of them are in person. We go into each department and we do presentations about internships. My spring is so full in the next couple of weeks. One day I'm going to be doing 4 presentations in one day with all these different departments, with architecture, with illustration, and teaching and learning, and also in the end with graphic design. So it's a busy day for us, but we do go right into the classroom and do presentations. So we're going to look at Artworks, which is RISD's job board and internship board. It's a password protected system, so it's a great place for a student to start looking for opportunity. In the Career Center, we give guidance to students and employers about internships. We do a lot with grants and residencies as well. And a lot of the things that we have for students, we try to do tutorials. So then if they miss one of the events, they can always go back and learn on their own. Especially like we know for an internship, you know, the first piece is you're going to need some kind of resume, a cover letter, and a portfolio. And then we do mock interview with students, and we help students to actually understand, especially the networking piece. After COVID, we find that students are a little bit more shy about reaching out to people. So we are always talking to them about that. So in the Career Center, other things that we do is the Fulbright advising. Not everybody wants to do an internship in the same way. This Fulbright advising is for after they finish RISD. Grants and residencies, and also too, business-minded students, we do work with them with entrepreneurial skills. And of course, here we are doing something with the Alumni Relations Office, which we just stay in touch with students after they graduate as well. They can use our services. So this presentation will be available to you, so you can definitely look at it in details. So next slide. So we actually have a page for parents because we know that you're going to ask us lots of questions about how do we manage your students. So I hope you'll explore that page for parents at some point and see some of the details that I'm talking about. Next slide. So in preparing your students, we have this little suggested timeline, and it's kind of interesting to look at that timeline. If you think about the first year student, what things do they need to have, you know, and what skills they need to have. So, you know, when you see like the first year for a first year student, we tell students to please document their work because they don't know when they're going to need it to show to someone. So that's a really big piece. And then meeting with us at any point about networking, and then starting their resume and cover letters and artist statement, all important. So most students prepare in the fall to apply for either a winter session or a summer internship. And since winter session has gone on, we're into the summer season. And the summer season of internship finding, it's right on. So there are different deadlines for different things. In the design industry, most things are like in between January and like May. So, and I think fine arts is kind of flexing in that time period as well. So we do advising programs, and we do one-on-one programs, one-on-one interviews with students to help them get ready. Right now, students are preparing for the design portfolio review, which is coming up, and we ask them to come to that event. This fall, we had a huge event called Internship Connect, and it was all about internships, and it was in person, and it was one of our first programs that were in person. And we were so surprised. We had 60 companies and we had 620 students. This was in the Rhode Island Convention because there's not a place on RISD's campus that can hold that many students. So it was amazing to watch students be so excited about trying to find opportunities with internship. So the Career Center has been meeting all fall, and in the spring we'll be meeting in the departments giving presentations about internships or either about professional skills or connecting to companies. So we hope you'll encourage your students to meet with us as well and attend our programs. The next slide. So on our website, we have a special section that's student internship, FAQs or information that is very specific. So if you see under internship and jobs, and the link is there, you would see the student information section. So in that section, what you're going to find is you're going to find things like, when can a student do an internship? Because that's a big question here. So I don't know how many people have first-year students in the audience that's listening to this this webinar, but for RISD, first-year students cannot get credits for internships. And let me explain that. They can do an internship, but they can't get credit for those internships because in the first year, they're in the division of the fine arts. First year, they're in foundation. And then after that, they go into their department, either fine arts or design. And usually the credits for the internship is usually given at the end of the summer. So they need to be in their department to get that credit. So that's the reason why. Also, too, I just want to mention international students must get credit for their internship. So first year students, they can definitely go home and find an internship, but they won't be able to stay in the US and do an internship during that time. But saying that about first year students, they do a lot of different things. So I can talk to you about what other things they can do during that year. If you can go back one more. Okay, so I do want to talk about the requirements for an internship. Students must have a 3.0 GPA to do an internship. So we have certain departments that require an internship, like architecture has a required internship, teaching and learning has a required internship. And in those situations, it's not about a 3.0 GPA, but for pretty much the rest of the school, it's a 3.0 GPA. International students will definitely need something called a CPT, which is called a curricular practical training. It's a visa that's administered by the school. So all the students have to do is once they get their internship, they have to register it. And then it's an automated process. It's an automated system that pulls everything together. But the registration is hugely important. So the next slide. So the next one. So where can a student find an internship is going to be the next piece of this. So RISD maintains a website that's a platform that's called Artworks. Artworks has been in RISD's history for many, many years. When I was a student, it was on paper. I think I found all those jobs that was talked about in my career on Artworks. And I try to tell people it really, really works because if you think about it, when students come to me and they say, tell me the RISD connected organizations, RISD connected artists, RISD connected company. And I say, go on Artworks. Artworks has a database of 14,000 employers that we've been in touch with for over many years. So students can find all types of employers on there. Also too, on our website, we have some specific job boards, as you can see in where it says on the right-hand side, you can see a little list there, a quick list of them. But I want you to make sure that students also know that they don't have to find all their internships in Artworks. They can find it in their own network. And you might be part of their network that can suggest someone you know or something to them as well. Because sometimes students think they have to just find it on their own. They can only do it in Artwork. So definitely, if they found it on their own, they can definitely register it. And then it goes through the process to their department head, and their department head will decide if it's an experience that warrants the 3 credits or it matches. So I do want to say about the credits, we do encourage students to even register their internship without the credit as well, because if they don't want credits, because it gives them some kind of protection. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. The next slide. So that page that we had just gone from was showing tips. And I think it's really important just to mention that the tips are a good detail that you can actually go in as parents and look at. So when you're advising or helping your student, you can actually know how to speak to them about looking through it. So this part is hugely important. This is where we see that students sometimes they forget to follow the directions about deadline. Um, right now we're in the season of looking for an internship. So, you know, June 14th is going to come really quickly. So, and that's the deadline. And then after that, we have like a start date of like June 1st and then an end date. We like to tell students, you really tell your employers you really should end your internship by about the middle of August, because that gives the student some time to relax and get ready to come back to school. Okay. And that's really important that they come back fully engaged. So here, when you're registering your internships, on Artworks is where you would actually, after you find the internship, you go to Artworks, you fill out the paperwork on Artwork, and it's an automated process. It goes to your department, they approve it. It goes, if you're international, it'll go to the international office. And then it'll go to the company that you're going to be working for, and then they're approving RISD's internship agreement. And RISD's internship agreement is really about taking care of the students, making sure they're safe, making sure the experience is fulfilling for the student. And also with my job, I speak to a lot of employers. I mean, you'd be surprised at some of the things that can happen to students during the summer. And we want to make sure, like if an employer had said the student will be doing these tasks, and then all of a sudden it's turned into something else, and the student's working more than 40 hours, that's when a student can call me and let me know, or email us and let us know, and then I'll talk to the employer. Because that's really important that employers stay within the boundaries of taking care of our students. So that's part of my job as well. Next slide. So, internships, there's always this misconception about internships that they cannot be paid and credit at the same time. RISD, we are the ones to give the credits to the students. The employers are not. We really work hard to make sure all the internships that employers post are for paid. So students can get paid and get credit at the same time. International students can get paid. You know, we administer, not our department, but the international office will get them a social security card so they can get paid. We know that some industries still don't pay, but we do have some funding, and thanks to, it started out with parents coming together and organizing, a funding for internships years and years ago, and now the name's changed and that's kind of changed. But that was to help students with low paid internships and also unpaid internships. And then also to help students have an experience that's different. So we have this first grant on the left side, which is called a Discovery Grant. This one is actually open to first year students. So if you have a first year student that found some opportunity and is really engaging and they want to do it, but it's not paying much, they can apply for this grant, as well as, all the way up to architecture fifth year students is eligible, and it's $3,000, which is absolutely great. And then another grant, the Meharem grant, that one is great because it's for somebody who wants to create their own opportunity. So if your student is somebody who's into like social justice, STEM, environmental sustainability, and they want to apply for this grant, they can. We've had students do things in the prison system. There was one student that created like books for prisoners, and they created a way that prisoners could read these books and get library. And it was really amazing the work they did. And also there was somebody that did something in the forest. There was somebody that did something in India about traffic. So, and they created these, they were trying to solve problems that they saw that was a problem. And they went and solved it through this internship. They spent the time working on that. But that one, it's a little bit more engaged, and that deadline is coming up real soon. So if, you know, if your students don't know about it, please tell them about it. It's $5,000. So the next slide. So this slide shows like some of the logos from some of the companies that is actually engaged with us. But there is a list of employers that hosted interns on the student info page at the bottom. This list is from 2021 to 2023. It is so extensive. I have it in front of me and I'm like, oh goodness. I'm always like happy when I look at it because it just shows complete accomplishment for the students who have worked in many ways. Like when I think of like Ann and Walsh, that's a RISD alumni company from graphic design. Adventures is another graphic design from RISD. When I think about the alums that have gone to anthropology and urban, Gensler architecture, Johnson and Johnson, you know, it's very exciting things that our students can do. And I know these are listing a lot of big companies, but we have a mixture of both. So next slide. So last year we had a student work at the Print Center in New York, and this was a photo student. The Print Center does a lot, the archiving prints. It's two-dimensional, it's fine arts, it's printmaking. And that student had like a really great experience for a photographer or for a printmaker or for a painter. There are many centers like this, like the Drawing Center in New York is also a place, or other places in California, or even the Smithsonian in DC. So Anderson Ranch, which is on the other side, they have internships for ceramics, for digital fabrication, for painting, drawings. Anderson Ranch is an artist residency. And we usually get students that come in and say, I want to work with an artist. I want to be an artist assistant as an intern. Um, and, and that's so selective because you have to choose an artist that you respect and love. Working for a residency in the summer gives a student an opportunity to see a varied amount of artists that's coming through a program. And for a fine artist, this is a great opportunity. Anderson Ranch is actually offering $5,000 for the interns when they do the internship. So we are so happy, and housing and food is involved. So, and one of the educational program is headed up by a RISD alum. So we're happy to have this kind of internship. So these are just a couple of samples. Next slide, please. So we have ongoing support for students that I do want to mention and really kind of drill down a little bit. Every week we send out emails. I know this, if you ask your students, they're going to say, oh my God, the Career Center, they just kill us with emails. Well, you know, one of my motto to students is open, look, and then delete. Don't delete until you've opened it, because you never know when it's going to be valuable for you. So we send these emails out at the beginning of the week. And if somebody is coming on campus visiting, like we also have a lot of employers that are coming in to do presentations. And these presentations are really valuable for students to really get a chance to hear how to prepare their materials, to have a one-on-one interview. So this is an alum from Cartoon Network that came to talk about her experience and talk about how to prepare her portfolio and to prepare materials that Cartoon Network would like. So we send out e-blasts, we send out things on our Facebook, on our LinkedIn group. Those are all places that students can find information about us, about internships. Next slide. So what's happening on the 20th, I think it's the 22nd of February is Leica is actually coming on campus. And Leica is, a production film company, animation, three-dimensional animation. They're going to do a presentation to students, and then they're going to do individual interviews, portfolio interviews, 15-minute interviews with students. Students just have to sign up to it. So this would have been an email that went out to FAV, illustration, sculpture, ID, graphic design, all of them would have gotten this kind of email. So next slide. This is one of the emails that we sent out. Tapestry is actually coming to the campus as well. And Tapestry is the parent company for brands like Kate Spade, Coach, Stuart Weitzman, and other apparel companies. They are also looking for apprenticeships. So they hire students that are in their senior year, getting ready to graduate. They do have a program, an apprenticeship program that's over the summer, and then sometimes it leads to a full-time job. On the right side, you see all those Netflix. I was just amazed. Netflix is hiring so many people right now, so many types of internships. So this is what a student would see in artworks. We talk to them about how to manage artworks, how to use artworks, how to search in artworks, how to set up an automatic email so you don't have to be in artworks all the time. As you can see, Coca-Cola is hiring as well. So next job. So I wanted to also show you about this portfolio reviews. The portfolio review takes place March 13th. It's for juniors, seniors, first and second year grad. And I know sophomores are going, what? It's not for me. But I think they would be, if they were graduating, if they were junior, they'd say the same thing. So we've been working at inviting companies to come. As I mentioned, it's similar to the Internship Connect that happened in the fall where we had 600 students. Usually we get about 700 students. This is going to be a remote event. So students are able to come into a Zoom room and practice interviewing, practice finding their network, practice talking about their work to their employer, practice, like we have SpaceX is registered already. And they're going to be able to talk to somebody from there. We tell students that although you might be nervous, it might be an alumni on the other side that's doing the interview. This design portfolio review is usually about 30% of the people that come are RISD alums. The companies usually pay to come, and people always say, well, why do they want to come if it's not like a job fair? They want to come because they want to keep a pulse on talent. And also it gives them a chance to just speak to students, to just have a chance to meet with students. This is a great experience for any student that's nervous about interviewing. Wet Design, they do fountains. They're an architectural design company as well. Fidelity's coming, CBT, so many other places. The links here in this presentation, so you can always take a look and see who else is actually coming to the portfolio review. And maybe, if you have companies that you feel should be hiring from RISD, you're definitely welcome to reach out to me and I will send them an invite and they can come and talk to students as well. Next slide. So that takes me to the employer section. We also have an employer FAQ, employer info section on our website. So when I talk to employers, I work with them to set up their internship programs. If they don't have one, or if they have one, I try to make sure it's serving our RISD students properly. So we want to make sure they have the right building blocks for success for our RISD students. I want to make sure they follow like remote guidelines. Like, a student shouldn't have to buy software to do projects for them. A student definitely needs a mentor, definitely needs somebody to speak to if it's a remote internship. And we talk to them about like paying students and that they're not the ones to give the students the credit. And then I talk to them about how to make sure they post their opportunity to artwork so everyone can see it. and also to write a good description so the student can understand what the expectations are. So on the left, there's the FAQs, and then there's an actual employer page where employers could actually go and look at portfolios. So we tell our students that we have a Behance page that's under RISD as a school, and they can upload their portfolios there so employers can see it. And also on Artworks, when the student creates their profile in Artworks, the job board, but also the place where they register their internship, they can actually put their resume up so employers can see it as well, as long as they check the box that employers can view that. So next slide. So I just want to say that it is so important that students meet with us and talk with us. We are really there for them at all different stages. If they are freshmen and they just want to come in and just talk about like having a professional resume for the time that they're in their freshman year, that's what we'll work on. And we're there for the sophomores who aren't sure what they'd like to do for the summer. We can introduce them to different things because there are different levels of internships that they can get as well. If a student is wondering, like, I want a summer job, there are other jobs that they can have on campus if they're staying in Providence. For example, they could be an RA, they could work for RISD's CE, the continuing ed program, teaching during the summer. And being a summer RA, they would work with the pre-college students. We definitely would work with figuring out different things. So it's endless. My job really reaches out to so many things. Like today I talked to an employer from India who actually is looking to hire jewelers to that would be, and they were willing to like help with the fare and housing in India. So it could be anything. I just want students to be really open and come in and talk to us. We help them with their resume and we help them to strategize and we help them to talk about how to interview effectively for these kinds of positions. So definitely, please come in and talk to us. We talk about your LinkedIn profile, so many things. So next slide. I want to thank you for listening to my going on, and definitely please ask questions.
Thank you so much, Karen. We appreciate that. Now it is the audience's turn. If you have burning questions that you would like to ask, please put them in the chat and we will do our best to get to as many of them as possible.
Can you read out the chat for me, the question? 'Cause I don't see.
Certainly.
Thank you.
The first question we have is from David, and it says, what percentage of, say, sophomores, juniors, and seniors get internships?
Well, it depends on if they want an internship. I don't think we actually have a number like that, but like for in the summer, we usually have last year we had over 450 students do internships. We know that a lot of companies, the percentage of juniors is usually the highest amount because most companies like the junior year because the students has gone through the foundation of their like of their majors and they have the right skill set for them. So you'll see a lot of I would say it's the high juniors. Um, I know like in like graphic design, we have a lot of sophomores that'll get their first job, but it's usually not as great as the junior year where they'll get into competitive companies, like if they get into like Apple, for example, doing graphic design.
Thank you so much. So the next question from Mia Bazzelli is, where is Anderson Ranch located?
In Colorado.
Okay. And moving on to the next question, what kind of internships does Netflix offer?
Well, that list was really long. So they were offering anything from, there's like a job that's called location scouter. So that's like a person that's probably in the film industry. They go to different places, they take videos, or even like storyboarding, they kind of map out the space. They have an internship that's like that. So the Netflix internship was rating from even working with film or working with designers or working with marketing. It's pretty varied. So, I mean, there's about 10 jobs that they've listed there.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question is, what are the requirements for an internship job and how many credits can a student get for it?
Okay. Um, the requirements for it is that it has to be, depending on what it is, that it has to relate to their major. And it has to, if a student writes a little description about the company they're going to work with and the tasks they're going to be doing, and then why is it important to them. So it's almost like an independent study. That's how RISD looks at it, that it's something that the student wants to do. So undergraduate students can do 2 internships for credit, and each internship is 3 credits. So that's and it could be for a major or a non-major. No liberal arts, and grad students can do 1 internship for credit. So with a major credit, it's directly related to what they're studying. A non-major, it's something that they're interested in and they would like to try it out.
Okay.
I hope that answers that question.
So this is a longer sort of post, but just bear with me. For from Rolando Postigo,
Mhm,
Miss Harris, my daughter is a raising junior this college year, 24-25. She's
mhm,
interested in illustration and animation.
mhm.
What would be her best path to follow so she can get an internship this year or for sure next summer? She's gone to the Career Center, but it seems that she's not connecting with the right people. I was hoping for Rizzy to have mentors in the field of her choice to show her the ropes.
Okay. Well, if she's coming to the Career Center, that is a good plus. Okay. It takes a little bit to kind of figure out what you need to do. So I know that she probably has a good resume set, and we probably have talked to her about LinkedIn and using our alumni platform as well to find people through LinkedIn. And also she's a junior, like for example, Leica is coming, um, and and Disney has like an internship as well as all of those Netflix that I've shown. So it might be if she's having a hard time, like either submitting something, or I'm not sure if it's the submitting of something or if it's just meeting or people are not responding or what it is. But she should definitely not give up, but come and meet with us even more. Ask us the questions. Let us know if something is not happening.
Okay.
I hope I answered that question.
The next question from Catherine Daniels is, what is the cost to have an internship count as a RISD credit?
Right now, it's 0. It's part of their students' package. It's not an extra charge. It's part of what it is when you take an internship, it's replacing a class. So RISD doesn't charge you anything extra for this class, which I'm so proud that we are one of the schools that really think about equity in internships, because not everyone can afford to do a low paid internship somewhere outside of their college um, residence. So they'd have to pay for housing or pay for transportation. So it's good that it doesn't cost anything. So I'm really happy that RISD has that. We're
Uh,
very different than other colleges.
Christina Chan would like to know how many career counselors you have on staff to help students.
We're a staff of 9 people, and we have walk-in hours all the time, during the week, 15-minute conversations with us. And we also have, I think we have like 4 peer advisors as well. They're grad students that also work with us to help advise students. And we meet by Zoom, drop-in, Zoom, in person, we do all of that. And we're great generalists. We meet with all different types of students. And we also have like a liaison program. So with our 8 staff that's doing the actual career advising, each staff member is a liaison to a different department. Like my department is I liaison with graphic design and teaching and learning, printmaking, textile. So we try to go into each one of those departments and do presentations. And then in general, I talk to students about internships all over. So it's really varied, and we have a lot of information on our website as well. We just hope students will come and take advantage of it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Django Lewis would like to know, is artworks available to students after they graduate from
Yes,
RISD?
yes, it is. It is. It is definitely available to alumni. So, and also our services, advising alumni is also something that we do. We don't only advise students. We see a lot of recent grads. I mean, RISD is a very intense program. So we know that students are at different levels of, like, if you have a senior that's getting ready to graduate, maybe they might need to graduate first and then get a job, you know, it different personalities, different ways of managing it, but we are there for them for the whole time. So if it's after they graduate, that's fine. The only thing I would tell you to encourage your students to do is make sure they take advantage of things like the portfolio review. We have the design portfolio review, and then we're going to have a fine arts portfolio review. The fine arts portfolio review is even so great because just think, we have the curator from the ICA in Boston sitting there with a student. Like, if you called up and wanted a meeting, they'd be like, no, I'm not meeting with you. But here it is, you can actually have a 15-minute appointment with a curator in the fine arts portfolio review. I'm showing you like SpaceX, or even, Microsoft, or any of those big companies, which are so hard to break into. Um, like today, I had a student that was talking about Nike, and because Nike has a good relationship with RISD, the student was able to reach out to them and get an interview. So we are there to support students and alumni, the whole time. I always tell people that, I'll advise you until you're about 95. And at 95, you shouldn't be looking for a job. You should relax. So, next question.
What is the possibility for a second-year student to get an internship?
Oh, it depends on that kind of student. Like if they're a sophomore, depending on what department they're in, and depending on how they've prepared their material, depending on how they've trained themselves to look. I am one of those people that talk about planning is so important. Um, and if a student doesn't find an internship during their sophomore year, like that summer, I tell them that's a great time for them to put their materials together. If you don't have a good portfolio, we're open all summer and we're there to advise students then too. So it's a good time to make sure you have the right materials all together. And then it's the right time to think about what kind of strategies are you going to use? How are you going to do your follow-up? How effective was your follow-up? Did you follow up at all? Sometimes students will send out like a lot of emails, a lot of, like, they'll apply to a million things, but they don't stop for a minute to go back and follow up. Did it go to the right person? Are there any alumni at the company? Are there any relationships with that company and RISD? So we talk about that in our one-on-one meetings. We talk about strategies. We talk about, like, how do you keep information so you don't forget it over the time? So, nothing is done in vain. Like if I think about, like, you're doing an intern, you looked for an internship during your sophomore year and you didn't get something, you've done the legwork for your junior year, really. And if you keep the information about the people, you make sure you can follow up with them for the next year.
The next question is, do you track metrics on how many of these internships lead to full to paid full-time employment with the same employer after graduation?
That's a little bit harder to track because that depends on the student reporting and the employer reporting. They don't always, but we have like a lot of companies. Like when I showed you like Tapestry, they are the company, they tell us that basically their interns lead to full-time hire. When we talk to Converse says a lot of their interns lead to full-time hire. So I know it anecdotally, but I don't know like because everyone doesn't report the information to us. But a lot of employers, I always tell students too, like an internship is like a long interview. It's 8, 10 weeks or 12 weeks worth of being in an interview. So, and it can lead to a job.
The next few questions are all related to first year students.
Okay.
Um, excuse me, potentially getting an internship. Like, what are the prospects for first year students? What type do they usually get? Um, and are there paid opportunities that first year could have over the summer?
There are some, so it kind of depends on which kind of first year we're talking about. Um, they could actually, like I had mentioned, RISDs, if they stayed in Providence, for example, they could work as an RA or and then they could do TA jobs with RISD CE. And also, first year students could do jobs with camps, teaching art or working in that capacity. Um, it's usually not as money because you do need the experience a little bit more for if it's a design, like in architecture, that would be harder. But we also talk to students about like maybe there's a possibility of shadowing someone, in a professional field. It's not unheard of, but it is, if you're an international student, it makes it a little bit more difficult because you do need the CPT visa, so you can't really work in the US without having that. And with the international students, they would have to volunteer for like nonprofits, and that's different than they won't be able to get paid.
So the next question is, I've heard of challenges with scheduling appointments due to class schedules. How can students work around this?
Well, hmm. Well, I think depending on what level they are in school, I think if they were to talk to their faculty and say, I have an appointment, because our appointments are either the 15-minute drop-ins, or either it's a half an hour or 45 minutes. And we can do those appointments by Zoom, even though they're on campus as well. So they could, conceivably have an appointment with us as well, as have their classes. Or they can talk to their faculty and let them know that they have a meeting with us at a certain time, maybe at the, beginning of the class or maybe during a break. They can schedule that time with us.
And someone wanted to just verify, is June 14th the deadline for 2024 summer internships?
It's the deadline to register their 2024 summer internship. So students can do internships in the fall semester, in the winter session, in spring, and then summer. So summer is the most popular time. Um, and that deadline for June 14th is there for registration. So like, for example, if they found their internship on June 13th, and they've got the paperwork, they can fill out the form, knowing that it's going to take 6 to 12 days to go through the process, depending on if they're an international student or not. So they would tell their employer, I can start, not on the 14th, but I can start 2 weeks after that, you know.
Okay. The next question is, can you say a little more about the required internships for architecture students? Which year do students usually have these internships?
For architecture, I would say that's actually the question somebody had asked about a sophomore. A lot of architecture students start looking for their internship in their sophomore year. It doesn't matter if it's sophomore, junior, or in their fourth year. that they get that summer internship. Their internship is 280 hours working in an architectural firm, and it's a professional internship. So what that internship also does is they get credit for their NCAR, which is the Society of Architecture professional certification. So they, by doing a RISD internship, it also goes, the credits can go to the NCARB certification, and that's a requirement. I think it's so important that students consider doing an internship. It's a chance to really kind of practice what you've learned. And I always tell students there's no bad or good internship. I remember having a student that had an internship with Ralph Lauren in New York. And this student was so nervous that, they were having the hardest time. But it was a student that before they went to New York, all they could talk about is like being in New York, being in New York. I want to be in New York. I'm going to be there. And then when they got there, it wasn't the right experience for them. So it really helped them to not use their energies when they're graduating from school for looking for opportunities in New York. They could look somewhere else where they would feel more comfortable. So I always think any internship is a good experience because it teaches you a lot about yourself.
There were a few questions asking, where exactly is the Career Center located and what are your hours?
Okay, we are in Wash. When students go to get their mail, or they go to the registrar's office, or they go to the financial aid, we're right on the same floor. And we have a big, I don't know if most of you have been on the campus, but it's a really welcoming entrance. We have tea and snacks, and we even have like a room. We have an interview room if somebody had an interview and they needed a quiet space. We even have that kind of setup for students.
How do students sign up for the Leica presentation on February 22nd and sign up to participate in that?
It's on Artworks. If they go on Artworks, then just search for Leica, they'll find it there.
Okay. And are there other animation companies besides Cartoon Network and Pixar that RISD has
Oh, yeah.
relationships with that offer internships?
Yes, we do. Black Math, we have Disney, there's quite a few. We have a lot of listings like that. That's a good walk-in meeting that somebody can quickly show them all of the people that are on artworks that have hired interns before. So, and they can come to me and I'm happy to show them. And that list that I showed with all those logos, you can actually see from 2020 1 to 23 the names of the companies that have hired for animation, if that's the interest.
Do you know what percentage of graduating class 23 had a full-time job by graduation?
No, I actually don't have those stats in my head. I think our director, Kevin Jankowski, does have that. But on our website, after, in the section that says meet with us, that section will show stats about where students have gone. Um, and, I mean, we can definitely give you that information. They can reach out again and I can direct them to it. But the meet with us page is where you would find the stats at the bottom.
Are you planning an in-person spring event like the one that took place last fall?
Well, we were trying to plan an in-person event, and then most companies, we were finding that we were having a challenge getting the Californian companies to fly out because people's budgets are still kind of strained. So it's actually going to be online and Zoom. And believe it or not, even though it feels like it's not in person, because we would love it to be in person, but we have to make sure that we have the vast amount of companies to satisfy all of the different interests of our students. And we know that it's much better for in-person experiences. But for most students, nowadays, when you get a job interview, your first interview is really a digital interview. It's a video interview. So in some ways it's kind of imitating what's going to happen to you in life. So fortunately it's not in person, but we really wish it could be.
Okay, so I do have a quick question about the RISD alumni LinkedIn group
Oh yeah.
posts
Yeah.
intern opportunities, but can current RISD students join the LinkedIn alumni group?
Yes,
It-
they can. Yes, they can.
okay.
There is a section on where I was showing the career prep section on our website where it says career prep. If you go into network and you just scroll down, you'll see a link for the RISD alumni group. And you just use your RISD email and then you can join.
Um, just a couple of more questions.
Sure.
Uh, I have a question about where can someone get a portfolio review other than for job seeking purposes?
Oh, they can they can come to us. We'll definitely, as staff, we definitely help them put their portfolio together. We can definitely talk to them about that. If it's just to put a portfolio together, we can definitely do that. Um, Sometimes you can ask alumni if you develop a relationship with them through LinkedIn and you're just asking them just to view your portfolio and give you feedback. You know, we try to set the table where people understand that it's not always about a job, it's about just getting feedback.
Also on the RISD network,
Oh, yeah.
um, you
Hmm.
can connect with lots of alumni who may be able to help you with your portfolio.
Yeah.
Uh, there is a question, just a couple of more. Is there a limit to the number of internships a student may take? And do you think it's useful for an internship after the first year, or should they wait?
I always say sometimes waiting till the second year is probably good, you know, for professional, because if you haven't had, like, if you haven't had the skill set to do a good job, then you're not going to get the most out of it to practice it. So I often say that it's probably good to, if you're getting an architecture internship, wait till you know the skills of reading blueprints, for example, you know, something like that would be much better for an upperclassman so you can use those skills. Um, but as far as how many internships you should take, you could take as many as you would like because everyone's going to give you a different experience. You're only able to do 2 for credit. And if you're an international student, you have to get credit for your internship if you're doing it in the US. You can do it in your home country, and that's not a problem. But it's just think of it this way. It gives you an opportunity to peek into the job that you think you might want. And if you hate it, it's only 10 weeks, you know? And if you love it, you just look forward to it after you graduate.
Thank you so much. I think that wraps up the questions. If anyone else has questions, Karen's email will be there as well as contact information for me. You can always go to the family's RISD website, and that will branch out to everywhere, including Career Center and everything else. We have a few upcoming events later on in the spring, so please be on the lookout for those. And thank you so much for attending.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you.